Kiss My Chaos. Taking stories of trauma into triumph while living life in the middle and everything in between. All views are expressed solely of the host, guests, and for entertainment purposes only. You don't like it? Well, you can kiss our chaos. Here are your hosts, Abigail Dark and D.T. Hudson.
Guess what? We're back. Yeah, it's been 2 weeks. Everyone settle down, please. Settle down. We have been busy. Abby did just 2 little things in life. She can tell you about that. I had to marry my son. And so, yeah, we have an excuse. We're allowed to take breaks, aren't we?
Well, I don't know. I think when I get breaks, I end up putting more work on my lap.
Tell everybody what you've done.
Okay. I completed the triathlon. I did it.
She did it.
Yay me.
And then what'd you do?
I don't know.
Didn't you do another one?
Oh, I did. Yeah, the week after.
She forgot about it.
Yeah, I don't know. Actually, Xander completed his first triathlon the week after.
That's awesome.
So he did it with me. It was tough. And I do kind of feel bad. Like, I think it was like, I don't know if it's borderline child abuse, like towards the middle of it, because I told him, I'm like, hey, we're going with the wind on the bike. And it's a 10-mile bike ride. And for a 9-year-old, that's a lot, And plus he finished a 220-meter swim. And so we were coming back on the bike ride. And he's like, nope, I want to do the full thing. If I'm going to do this, I'm going to do the whole thing. And I'm like, yeah, you're like taking after mom right now. I love the enthusiasm. Let's go for it. And then on the bike, on the way back, we were going against the wind. And it was like full-on country. And it was like 30 mile per hour. I mean, like maybe not 30, but it felt like it. Mile per hour winds, and it was cold. It was like in the 40s. It wasn't warm. We had just done the swim, and he's behind me just like saying every word like around a swear word that you could possibly say for a 9-year-old. And we stopped 3 times, and then he had to pee halfway through. So like he's in the bushes, and then he's itchy. I didn't know if he found like some kind of itchy from the, I don't know if he found like
Xander, what did you do?
Stepped on into something because his like leg was itching, and we finally got all the way back. And when we pulled up and everyone was cheering him on and saying, yay Xander, like that's awesome, then he was like, we're gonna do the run, mom, and then we're gonna do the whole thing. So then we ran the 2 miles at the end,
and you got a little award.
Yeah. So they were nice enough to give me the Barbarian Award. So I was, I got an actual axe that Justin made, which he handcrafted.
That's
pretty
awesome.
Cool. I felt pretty cool. Although like there were so many amazing people there. There was this amazing woman, like in a wheelchair, and she got out and pushed herself into the lake and like swam and did her thing. And then she did the bike. And I'm just like, whoa, like these people are phenomenal. Like the mindset that they have, that like there are no barriers. Like you just do it. Like this is what people do. And so it was a really good story. And I felt super honored that I got to be a part of that and that they gave me the Barbarian Award. I thought it was pretty cool.
Well, you earned it.
Well, thank you.
And we're very proud of you.
Trying to be.
And we're proud of you, Xander. And we're proud of you, Andy, because you're probably eating an ice cream cone watching your family.
He's very supportive of my my overachieving.
What do we got going on today?
Well, today we have an awesome guest. We have Tracy Dunham Oberg. She is an amazing person. I'm originally from Ulen, Minnesota, if anybody didn't know. And we're kind of like in that neck of the woods. So I grew up with her and some of the other Dunhams. And Becky Dunham works with me, also a relative of hers. But they run an amazing organization, the Brady Oberg Legacy Foundation. And it just kind of touches my heart how many people and how many things that I see that they impact in people's lives and how they're changing lives and changing the way that we view veterans and how suicide affects everyone every single day. But, we'll get to that part. She's going to tell us all about it. But first of all, Tracy, why don't you just tell us a little bit about yourself?
Hey, well, thanks for having me on. Wow, where do I start, I guess? A little bit about myself. I'm married to Bradley Dunham. We have 2 kids, Maya, who's a senior this year, and Skylar, who's an 8th grader, and in Ulen, Minnesota. And I'm the executive director for the Brady Oberg Legacy Foundation. So that's kind of like a nutshell of myself.
That's awesome. Born and raised here.
Born and raised, yeah.
I love this area. We moved out here 21 years ago. I'm not leaving.
Small town.
Small town. Your husband knows where I live. He called the previous owner out by name.
Oh, so, yeah. We, both went to college in Fargo and decided to come back to Ulen, so. Right.
And Bradley and I serve on an advisory board for the Steam Thatchers Union for the Veterans Museum. It's awesome. Your family gives, and a lot of families give. This community it's like a chain, right?
Yeah,
it's like everybody's got a link, and without a link, you don't have a chain. And
we were just telling our kids like how important it is to volunteer and whatever, but we're like, but we also have a problem and can't say no. So sure. There's kind of like
fair enough
balance in there.
Well, I'm going to be honest with you. I might struggle a little bit today. This topic is very close to me, near and dear to my heart, and I think it's important to talk about. And if we don't talk about it, nothing gets done. Awareness is great, but your family, this organization, has firsthand experience, and it's not just awareness, it's action. And I think that's really important.
Yeah, that action is, and that's kind of, where we started, which obviously we'll get there. But, it's like, yeah, something's got to change, something's got to give, and, I guess we're going to be a part of that change, so.
It's extremely important. And I think, we always hear about the end result. And I think a lot of times, they see Brady Oberg's face, which we posted, on our Facebook. I think it's important for us to understand who he was. Tell us a little bit about you guys growing up and some of your experiences with him.
Yeah, Brady is my younger brother. We have an older brother, Bradley, which, yes, I'm married to a Bradley, and my older brother is Bradley, and my younger brother's Brady. So we like to keep things confusing. But so Brady's 6 years younger than I am. He was kind of that kid that always seemed to have it easy, if that kind of makes sense. But, football was his jam. And we would make fun of him like, oh, of course you're going to be on the front page of the WDAY or, like something he'll do in basketball or something like, oh, of course you're going to be, whatever, on the Ulen Union or just, things like that. He always had friends around him. He was kind of the jokester, partier, but yet sometimes just would get overwhelmed with all that too. And I remember him like chucking his phone and being like, it's just blowing up. People want to do something on Friday night. And, he'd get overwhelmed by that too. Like, well, it's a small town. You got to find something to do, right?
Yep.
And he always loved history. My dad loves history. My older brother loves history. My husband loves history. So that type of thing and talking about military stuff was something very common, in our family. My parents didn't serve or anything, but Brady would say like, oh, that airplane that flew over is this and it's used in these things. And it's, he just loved that kind of stuff. And he talked about going military, I would say, early high school, and then decided to go play a little bit of football in Jamestown, and then didn't quite know what he wanted to do and got a full-time job for an engineering firm in Fargo. And then all of a sudden, I think I was out of town. I was in Atlanta, Georgia, and I remember getting a text from him saying, hey, I'll pick you up. And I'm like, oh, don't worry about it. I think I get in late or whatever to Fargo. And he's like, no, I'll pick you up. I'm like, awesome. That would be great. And didn't think anything of it because that would be him. That would be our relationship. That, wasn't out of the norm. And I remember he gets to Hector Airport and he gives me some papers. And he's like, oh, I did a thing today. I enlisted in the Army. And I was like, oh. But yet, even my parents, it's like, well, we're not surprised, like,
Right.
And I remember my mom saying that night, like, oh, why don't you just be a cook, or I'll buy you a new saxophone if you, go in the military band. And he was like, why would I want to do that? Like, no, I want to be infantry, and, I want to do that. And, so again, like, none of that surprised us. It was just kind of who he was. He put a flagpole up at the farm, and he's like, every farm or house, should have a flagpole. They should fly the flag and, what it represents. And again, that was just kind of the way he was, as a person. He's just kind of that. He loved to read. Or like if I would be talking about, oh, I'm going to build a deck, or my husband's going to build a deck, he would get books from the library, Amazon books, watch YouTube on how to build a deck. And you'd be like, oh, did you know all this? And I'm like, no, I didn't, So he loved that, like, gaining knowledge of stuff. And he had no problem, like, sitting down and reading a book about it, especially history. And again, that's just kind of who he was and a little bit about him.
So he had charisma.
Yeah, he did.
Everything he did, he was always good at it.
Yes, almost, yeah, like I said, kind of annoyingly,
Right.
Annoyingly.
So infantry, you can almost bet, especially the time that he was serving, that a deployment was inevitable.
Oh, that's what he was jacked for. Right. I mean, he was like, why do all this training if I'm not going to get to use it? And, of course, my mom and dad weren't excited about that, but he was super excited. And he's like, he trained at Fort Benning, and then he went to Fort Polk, Louisiana, and he was there probably almost a year before being deployed. And it's like you said, he kind of knew right away he'd be going to Afghanistan. Right. And he was excited to go, which, is crazy, but he was like, this is what we've been working for. This is what we've trained. When he served, it was just women, or no women with him, just the guys. So he would always say, like, this is what the guys have been training for. This is what the 4 guys on my right and the 4 guys on my left. So
it's kind of like the football team, though. You have your team, and you get to know them, and they become kind of your family away from your family.
Absolutely.
And you love and hate them.
Yes.
You do.
I believe it. It's like a roommate.
Kind of like family, kind of like a roommate. But, you trust the person to your left and right. And you have a goal to get home and to your family, to your loved ones, and serve your country. And that's about the most honorable thing I think someone could possibly do.
Yeah. And when he was gone, it was kind of like, which is crazy because you think like our U.S. military, the way we'd communicate was Facebook Messenger, So like even whatever time he'd get on it between like my mom and brother and Brady's fiance at the time, we'd be like, okay, he was on, or he sent me a message or whatever. And the longest we had to go was about 28 days without no communication, no anything like that. Mm-hmm. And, he had a conversation with me before he deployed. He had stopped over, and my mom and dad were selling the farm that we grew up on, and so they were kind of in limbo. And he's just like sat down, and I was like, what's the deal? You're kind of acting a little weird. And he's like, oh, well, I have to go over this stuff with somebody. And I'm like, okay, well, what are you talking about? And he's like, okay, let's get into it. And he was, like if he gets hurt, if he gets, like his arm injured or a leg, he's like, I'm not having him contact you or, anybody unless it's fatal. And, and I'm like, yeah, no, I think we should know. And he was like, nope, this is what this is what I want, and this is what I'm going to do. And, I took out this money for my nieces and nephews. He's like, I wanted to go for this and that. And I'm like, okay, well, that's a lot. But, it was kind of like the first time I thought about, oh man, he is really going to war,
Yeah.
And he's thinking about other people. He's not thinking about what he's going to experience. He's thinking about others.
Yeah. And like I said, my mom and dad were selling the farm, so they were going to move here for a little bit and try to figure out where they were going to be. So he's like, they will knock on your door, and I'm like, oh, great, great.
I think you bring up a really good point. You've just made a point that we've made before, is like when you have a family member serving, the family serves. because you are waiting for that message. Your loved one is there's a void.
Yeah.
I mean, you have to fill that void. My wife went through that too. It's you're a partnership, whether that be brother, sister, son, daughter.
Yeah.
The family has to adjust as well.
They adjust. And I have a really good friend, which Abby knows too. She's a wife of a captain, and I feel like she serves just as much as her husband
There's
does.
no doubt.
It's amazing the stuff that she has to do. But yeah, that was kind of the first time I remember, like telling Brady, like, wow, are you sure you want to do this? And he's like, hell yeah.
No, you can say
I don't know if I can say
Yeah, we
Yeah, you
swear a
can
lot.
Yeah.
We're sailors here.
That's absolutely okay.
And it's like, really? Okay. And I remember kind of just writing some of the stuff down that he would, wishes and stuff like that. And it's like, gosh. And I only remember one time, like we were in the basement, my husband and I watching a movie or something in the basement, and the doorbell rang. And, I kind of looked at him like, just sinking feeling. And I remember coming up the stairs. Obviously, it was not anything like that, but it was the only time I was just like, oh my God, why is my doorbell ringing, later in the evening? But, it's just small town antics instead. But
Well, thank goodness.
yeah.
Well, yeah.
Yeah, it's something that is always in the back of your mind, and it's difficult to be deployed, but again, you have a family around you, so to speak, and it's not that we forget being deployed. It's just you can't be distracted. It's dangerous.
And I remember him calling. Obviously he'd call his fiance first, or my mom, and then it's like, okay, then I'd get the last call or something, and he'd be like, oh, mom's crying, or, my fiance wants, something is going wrong in the house or something. And he's like, what am I going to do about it? And I'm like, you're fine. Don't worry about it.
The family serves.
Yeah. It's like, everybody's good here. Just do what you have to do. And
Right.
Focus
come
on
home.
what you're doing.
Yeah.
Yep.
Come home. So
Probably the most comforting thing you can say to someone.
yeah.
when
And
they're deployed.
it's like looking back, it's like, that's the only reason why he was calling me, is to be the one that like, oh, I want you to come home. No, that's not what he wanted.
Fix it.
He wanted somebody to be like, you're fine.
Make it better.
Yeah, you're fine. Everything's going to be good.
How was it when he came home?
It was awesome. My mom and Katie, which is Brady's fiance and then wife, drove to Louisiana. I had little kids at home. I didn't go to it. But they all got to get off the plane together and get, what's the correct term when they get called out? They all have to stand at attention until...
They're in formation.
Yeah, until something happens, and then they can break that formation.
Right, till they're dismissed.
Yes, yep. And then he was there about 2-3 weeks, and then he finally got to come home here.
Gotcha.
Which was hunting weekend, and the same weekend my son Skylar was born.
Wow.
So yeah,
That's a lot.
That's what he was kind of waiting for, was like,
Sure.
oh, get closer to, so he could be home then for when Skylar was born. So, but just having him back, and I think all of that stuff was like, he's home. Like, you don't have to worry about it. He was still active for another year, living in Louisiana, but it's like, you knew he was in the States. And, I think it's just kind of, as a family, we were like, oh, okay.
Right. That weight is lifted a little bit.
That weight, where obviously knowing what we know now, that's when we should have started to really worry, or, take things into account and stuff like that. But I think on the other hand, we were just like, okay, he's home. Everything's going to be good.
We can get into this later too, but my brother said something to me. He goes, I feel terrible. He goes, because I didn't know. Mm-hmm. I'm like, don't feel bad. Nobody knew. I didn't know.
Yeah.
And it's not anyone's fault that way. It's just, you have to, if you're going to fight something, you have to know what you're fighting.
Yeah.
I didn't.
And how to help. And everybody's so different.
100%. Yeah, absolutely.
Because, we were always close. We text every day, kind of thing, whether it's something stupid or something serious. We'd talk about budgeting and business plans and, whatever it is. But yet, that wasn't something he wanted to talk about.
Looking back on it, like when you had, family gatherings or events or things that when he was around, did you now, on this side of it, do you remember certain things that, triggers you now that like he was not okay?
Not yes and no. Looking back now, when we were together, no. He was the same happy person, playing with the kids, running around, tackling them, hide and seek, doing that kind of stuff. He was very vocal about he hates stupid people. And like his fuse was definitely shorter.
Sure.
And just talking to him, and he'll be like, let's say if I'm like, hey, I'm going to be, 10 minutes late, I'm going to go get a pet, mani pedi or something like that. He'd be like, really? Third world problems,
Oh, sure.
Or I'd be like, I got to run to Fargo, we're out of toilet paper or whatever it is. And he'd be like, you know what? If you only have 10 squares, you only have 10 squares, and it's a military thing. Yep. Like you don't have 20 if you only got 10, That's and true. He's like, you deal with it. And so those little comments, definitely now looking back, it's like things like that bothered him. And he was very vocal. He had cracks in his spine from the weight he carried. He had a bad knee, so he couldn't run like he used to. Those things he talked about a lot, and had no problem being like, oh, my back hurts today or something like that. But the first time I noticed, and my mom and dad noticed, we were at Fort Benning then after he got home, and my dad took him and another buddy and me and my mom and dad out for supper. And there was a birthday party behind us at like a Mexican style restaurant type of thing.
Sure.
And we're eating, just talking, great conversation. And one of the balloon pops behind us. And he like put his knee up on his plate, and he was going to go over the table and like into my dad. And he put like his hand down on the table, and like my dad and the guy next to him, Anthony, was going to go under the table. So his chair already had flew back, and I didn't even have time to like move or do anything. And I was like, oh. And we were like, just kind of like, wow, what just happened? And he sat back down, and he kind of looks at Anthony. He was like, oh man, we're just always on edge. And his fork was shaking. And my dad's like, are you guys okay? And he was like, yeah, just those surprise noises, And I remember kind of just eating and like thinking like, oh my gosh, what just happened? Like it happened so fast. And it was like, how do you react that fast? Like me just sitting there eating, like
trained to, I suppose, being on edge for so long when you were there.
And so I remember like saying to him, like on the way home or something like that, like, like, do you do that every time a loud noise? Or, he's like, well, in public, especially in public. And he's like, I slept with my gun for a year. I took it to the bathroom. Like, he's like, you did not go anywhere without your weapons. And he was like, so now it's just like common. That noise just puts me on alert. And, especially he said places that have people around.
It's an exhausting way. And I'm not trying. One of the rules I always tell people is you never compare individuals, because we touched on that a little bit. Everybody's a little bit different, so there are similarities, but you can never really compare. So if I throw something in, that may not have been the way for someone else.
And I try to tell, people will be like, tell me about PTSD or tell me the symptoms, and I'm like, honestly, from when I've talked to vets, it's so different.
It is
so vast. I wish it was something we could say, here's the 3 things,
Yeah.
But right. So yeah, share your.
Well, it's for me. Noises don't bother me. It would be the restaurant itself.
Yeah.
That would be that. It was like layered.
Uh-huh.
And I don't know. That was part of the problem. You don't always know what a trigger is until it happens. Then you realize, well, I guess that's a trigger.
Yeah.
And for me, it's still to this day, it's stupid things. Car washes, stuff alongside a road. Don't like that. Bridges, places where I can't escape.
Yeah.
They bother me. And I rarely take an elevator. It's always stairs. So Which is better for my health, I'm told.
Yeah.
I don't like being in a metal box.
Yeah.
Especially
I don't
with
like not
strangers.
being in control. So
No.
airplanes, things
Yeah.
of where,
Right.
too many things stack up and I lose control. Can't handle that.
So no, but I'm kind of nodding my head as you're describing this. I'm like, yeah, I totally get it. Some of that's not me, but I can see where it is. It depends on, it just, you don't know. I mean, and it's tough for a family. It's tough for the individual. PTSD was just another acronym for me. I mean, just another term. I had no idea what it was. I had to Google it. I'm like, well, that's basically me. I mean, I'm always on edge. I'm not sleeping.
Yeah.
It was isolating. I loved my dark basement. I'd sit and watch hockey. It's like
Yeah.
I didn't want to go anywhere. I'd last about 10 minutes. And my wife, unfortunately, was the brunt of it because she smart. She started seeing it, and she's like, all right, we got to go. And it wasn't fair to her.
Yeah. At
So
least she was aware of it.
she was aware of a change, and she didn't know what it was either.
Yeah.
So when I first went in and got diagnosed, I had my big lie all ready to go because I was fine. And I got the German finger in my face, and she did the talking. And I'm like, oh, my God, is that what I've become?
Yeah. Is that really me?
It was the truth, though, and it was hard. It was very hard.
Good for her, though.
Oh, she's brave. She's
brave.
very brave. Wow.
We love Angie.
We do. We love you, baby.
She's sassy.
She's a sassy one. Her nickname-
Firecracker.
Her nickname's the Badger.
It's probably worked out for her, though, to be a
It does.
firecracker.
Yeah. You know.
That's what you needed.
Absolutely.
I did. I wouldn't have probably made it without her. I definitely, and I have a very forgiving son too. So I was very fortunate. But if you don't know what it is, it's hard for a family collectively to fight it.
Yeah.
And that's why I think this is so important. And what you do is to not only raise awareness, but to take action. I mean, I have friends that have had the opportunity to take part in your programs, and they love it. It's amazing for them.
Good.
And they struggle every day.
Yep.
And you will. There's not a cure for this.
No,
Not that
and
I'm-
it's not that you can go to one event or one retreat or one something and you're cured. You
Oh,
know,
no.
It's a lifelong thing.
It is. It's mitigation, in my opinion. I'm not a doctor, but for me, it's mitigating these things.
Yep.
And trying to find the positive in life. And I say it every time. My wife calls it the middle. I needed to get my identity back. I had completely lost who I was as a human being.
Which I feel like I hear that a lot from veterans.
Yeah.
You know, here they were this somebody, they were this person that did these crazy, amazing things that they had to do. And then it's like they come back here and where do they fit in?
Right.
They're trying to find that adrenaline rush that they're used to.
And allow themselves to be happy.
Yeah.
Every time I do a training for veterans or something, I ask them, I go, what's it like at Christmas for you? It's like, oh, we love watching the kids open gifts, and then someone hands them a gift, and they don't know what to do. Mm-hmm. They feel guilty. They don't like it. And I was that way for 20-some years.
Wow.
And then my wife got me one of the most thoughtful gifts, not expensive, just something that supported my identity.
Yeah.
And ever since then, it's like this light went on. It's pretty amazing. So she's very thoughtful and stern. I love you.
I can't speak to that. I've never seen her stern.
You don't want to see her stern.
Okay. Well, I'm glad you're the only one who's.
She
had to
loves
deal
her
with it.
Abby. So
Well, I love my Angie, of course. So did he, when he came back, so he has his fiance and everything with, he has love and support from his family. We obviously have to get to that hard part of the conversation.
Yeah.
So when it happened.
Yeah, that hard part. Yeah, he was married. Him and Katie got married then when he got home from Afghanistan, and they both lived in Louisiana. And then they came home, and things were good until they weren't. That kind of thing. And of course, I can only tell my story of how
Right.
I remember it, how I saw it, stuff like that. Of course, like you had said, looking back, being on this side of it, he was withdrawing, from us. He, different things like that just seemed different. but I would say within a month time. It's not like, oh, we were a year, like that.
Do you think you just kind of dove deeper into his head, or do you think something had triggered it? Or
about 2.5, 3 months before Brady, one of the guys he served with had taken his own life. And he was probably, Chris was his name, the third or fourth that Brady had served with that took their own life. And he went to my mom and dad's, and my dad's like, well, what do you think this PTSD thing is? Is it, tell me about it. I don't know anything about it. And Brady's like, yeah, it's real. And yeah, I have it, but it's not something that we can't handle. And my dad's like, well, obviously, Chris, obviously some of these guys can't. And Brady's like, we're trained to handle stuff. And, my dad's like, okay, on with the conversation to something else. And, and like I said, kind of August in 2015 then, I was talking to Brady on my way home from work, and he was talking about going to WeFest. And he's like, you should go. Well, I had a 3 and a 7-year-old at home, and I'm like, I'm not even home from work yet. I don't think I can just go to WeFest tonight, And he's like, oh, come on, you should go. And we were talking, and then I was like, no, I can't. And I remember him kind of getting like frustrated or just kind of like, come on, kind of thing. And I remember we hung up, and we came home and we ate, and we started a bonfire outside, just my husband and I and the 2 kids. And I said to Brad, I need to talk to Brady this weekend because just something seemed off. And this was, I don't know, 8, 9 o'clock at night or whatever, maybe even a little earlier. And we had planned to golf at the Lake Park football golf tournament on Saturday with me, my 2 brothers, and my dad. So I was like, something just seemed off. I got to talk to him this weekend. And Brad's like, oh, you probably should then if you feel like something's off. And that was the last time I got to talk to him. So that night, I don't know if you want to go into all this part or not.
It's entirely up
this
to
is
you.
your story.
Yeah.
Obviously we were sleeping, and about 11 o'clock, I woke up, came out to the living room, thought I should get my phone, grabbed my phone and laid it up by my bed and went back to bed. And not too many minutes longer, I don't even remember if it was my mom or my dad called and said that we had lost Brady. So I feel like both the time I woke up is, and he went to WeFest with our cousin, one of his best friends, had an amazing time. I mean, we called them at WeFest the next morning, and they were like, what? No.
Yeah.
It doesn't seem right. So, so it was speaking of triggers, the word WeFest has been a trigger of mine for 10 years.
Sure.
Absolutely.
I finally got over it this year, and because of the foundation, we got a donation that forced me to go to WeFest. And I feel like that was Brady's kind of way of being like, hey, here you go.
He's still running the show now. Still
Oh,
a little bit.
absolutely.
Good.
Absolutely.
I'm glad you look at it that way. Because when I was kind of talking about, before we were recording, I was talking about a couple of my friends, and why I include them in some of the presentations I do is because I think they would want that story there.
Absolutely. Everything that I do in the foundation runs through my head. Yeah. And a lot of times, I'm like, hey, that's just not us. That's not something Brady would have went to or been for. Mm-hmm. And it's easier for me or for the board to say, nah, you know what, that's not us. And we'll think like something will come our way, and we're like, absolutely, Brady'd love that. And it's like, okay, that's what we're doing.
That's a brilliant way to do a foundation. It's like that. It's a legacy foundation, and that is a legacy, and you're honoring.
Yeah, and it helps us keep on track, I think.
Absolutely, it does.
Yeah.
Good for you. That's very responsible. There's, as you know, you probably have a bunch of organizations reach out to you and want to partner and do things like that. And I tell you what, there's a ton of organizations out there that on paper look really good, and they don't do anything.
Yeah.
They don't do anything.
And there's a lot of military support out there, if you find the right connections and stuff. But a lot of times we'll get requests, and it's like, breaks your heart, the story, but it's like, I'm sorry, but it's not us. That's not what we do. Everybody's got to be good at what they do. And it's like, this is what we do. So
Absolutely. Absolutely. And I think putting Brady's wants and wishes first, that's what exactly keeps you on track. Yeah. And sometimes the answer is no. And you're doing it out of respect and honor.
Yep.
That's the right way to do things.
When you spoke about the WeFest part, it reminded me of, I had lost a friend to suicide who happens to be my husband's brother. I was one of the last people to see him before he passed. And I remember we were all partying. He was kind of just being a little funky that night. He was off. And he begged me to stay, to just stay overnight, which was weird because, he and I never had a thing or, anything like that. We were just friends, but he wanted me to stay overnight. And he was like, please just stay here.
Yeah.
And I was like, no, I got to work in the morning. I'm going to take a cab and go home. No, I'm not going to stay. And he was like, please just stay. And I didn't. And, I had talked to my husband about it later, because you have that guilt. You have that
Absolutely.
feeling like if I had been there. My husband made a really good point. And he goes, if it wasn't then, it would have been another. It's not your fault. You would not have changed an outcome. If they had it in their head that was what was going to happen, you could have gotten taken with it. You don't know their mental state.
Right.
You could have gone with them, so.
It's that guilt of why didn't I just go? Why didn't,
Right. And would you have changed that outcome? I mean, you could drive yourself crazy thinking that, but knowing that it may not have changed a thing.
Right.
At that time, they had needed more than just that moment.
And that's important for, I think, if he would have just even said, I really need you because I'm struggling.
Right.
Or, not that he even had to say everything.
Right.
But, just if he could have just reached out a little bit, and said something. That, I would have been like, I'll be there,
And it could be the catalyst to get them to the next day, but you can't be there 24 hours a day.
And that's just it with, especially an adult,
Right.
he's got his own life, he's doing his own thing.
Well, was he working when he came?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. And that's, I won't say funny part, but almost the weird part of kind of what I do now is, I talk to people and tell them the story, story of our mission more, but they'll be like, oh, my brother's military, but he's not like yours. And I'm like, well, that's probably a really good thing. And then I'll start talking and he didn't drink very much because he knew, it would take him in a bad place. He still drank, but he wasn't doing drugs. He had a full-time job. He had a wife. He was looking at building a house on a lake lot that week.
So he had plans.
He had plans
for life.
Yeah. So then, people will be like, oh, and I'm like, was there red flags? Yes. But were they flapping in our face? Oh, I said, I wish he would have got to the point where he would have been like, oh, we can't get him to leave the house, or he's drinking so much that, those would have been red flags where we could have been like, hey, we can jump in, we can do something about this. Mm-hmm. And, unfortunately, fortunately, I don't know which way to look at it, but those flags weren't there.
So Dan and Tracy, I think this is a question maybe for both of you. Why do you think they don't reach out?
Looking, this again, this kind of Brady story, but we've learned a lot since he's been gone, and he did start to see a counselor. And one of the things he would talk about to them and to his wife is, I made everybody worry for a year about me, and I don't want them to keep worrying. That was a huge thing for him, again, learning later. He kind of, I think, put himself as okay, nope, I'm, they're not going to sit and worry about me. They got their own kids. They got, whatever. But I don't know, Dan, what...
Just a quick question. Did he lose friends over there? Not after to suicide? But...
After, now I think we're at 16 to 18. Right. Over there, no. The the last in-person conversation I had with him was on Saturday night at a campground outside Detroit Lakes, and he was telling us about this Fearless book that he was reading. It was him and my dad and me sitting around a campfire talking about this Fearless book, and oh my God, you have to read it, and blah blah blah. Well, fast forward then to like a month after he was gone, I was like, oh, I'm going to buy my dad this book and me this book. And I had it sitting on my end table for probably a good year. And finally I'm like, I'm going to start it. And page 1 was dedicated to the Marines that lost their life on August 6th outside of Kabul. And so I started doing a little bit of research and asking some of the guys that we've met and, consider friends now and family. And they, he was a part of the cleanup crew kind of thing for that. I don't know what the correct, term was.
Sure.
And obviously that date then was a big trigger for him, something like that. But as far as I know, they didn't actually lose anybody over there.
So it's really, it's not evident. Again, I'm not a doctor, but sometimes soldiers, law enforcement, firefighters, they struggle subtly and sometimes pretty much out loud of survivor's guilt of being like, why do I deserve to be here back? I made my family worry. I did all this. And it compounds.
Yeah.
It doesn't go away. It doesn't shut off. And then the next thing that happens, any little thing, which might be minor, it just builds on top of it and builds on top of it. And it just, if you take a glass of water and you fill it up, what does it weigh? Pound? Hold it out there for 30 minutes. How heavy is it now? It's the same amount of water. It just keeps weighting your arm down. And that's the best way I can.
That's a good analogy.
It's the best way I can think of it. And it's okay to set the water down for a little while and take a break. It's just when that switch doesn't shut off, it's exhausting. And you're not formulating your thoughts like you would. If he's a reader, he's brilliant. I mean, Xander's a reader. He's a smart kid.
Brady was always smart.
Right.
Book smart and just common sense smart, leadership.
Sure.
Just that was a good role for him,
So it's really hard, to have people that you lose, especially in your unit, and not especially, but at any time, but after the fact. This is a problem, and let's fix it. I'm big on action. You have to educate first, because I had to get educated too. I had no idea what was happening, but we have to stop it.
Right.
And we have to get creative on how to stop it. You are getting creative on how you stop it. You're doing the right things. You're doing it with heart, passion, love, and respect. And that builds trust. And with veterans and first responders, building trust is a hard thing.
Yeah.
It really is. I've heard legendary stories about your husband's classroom.
Oh, gosh.
But it's that type of respect for this country, for the service members. That's trust. And it's really important because it can go in one ear and out there. They're like, what do you know about it? Well, you do know about it.
And especially with, getting to talk to veterans and hearing their amazing stories and stuff like that. And I feel very blessed to hear a lot of those. But I am quick to say that I'm not a veteran. Right now we have a female retreat going on. I'm not there. I don't stay there. We have a veteran ambassador that goes there because as much as I would love to just stay and listen to their stories and stuff like that, we don't want somebody to be uncomfortable because this one person didn't serve and they don't understand. So it's like, we get that. I get that.
That's really humbling of
We're
you.
not.
That's
It is.
Like I said, I would love to listen to their stories, and I am privileged to get to meet so many, but yet to understand that's not our place too.
I would encourage you to stay one night.
Yeah.
And you'd be surprised. You would be really surprised. It's about the person.
Yeah. And of course I always will when they're talking their stories and they ask, it's usually ask about Brady's service or different things like that. So that's kind of always fun to share and do that kind of stuff.
Right. It is humbling for you to do that. It's also, it again, depends on the individual. Me, I don't have a problem. I blab all the time. So I've got no secrets anymore.
But so with the foundation, tell us a little bit about the different things that you do for the veterans. Like you just talked about, there was a retreat. What other things do you provide for them?
So we kind of have, a 3 or tier in our mission. And again, it kind of all wraps around to those things that we either learned or things that were important to Brady. So we learned right away. We had 6 guys that served with Brady come back for the funeral. And, watching them and they're all hanging out on a tailgate at our house here. We had people over, I don't know if that was after the funeral. It all seems to go together. But they were all hanging out and talking. And my dad's like, how often do you guys get to see each other? And they're like, oh, I saw so-and-so at Chris's funeral. I saw so-and-so at, this funeral. And and we were just like, gosh, they were Army. They all got out at different times. They're all over the United States. And so Katie wanted to do something with the funeral money that would make a difference. And my mom and dad agreed. So we thought, why don't we have a retreat for these guys and bring them all back to Minnesota and enjoy hunting and fishing that Brady would like to do. And so it was probably at the funeral home, which is a little crazy. I said something to his wife, and I'm like, Brady always wanted to do something bigger and better than himself. And I feel like that's just coming back to me. I don't know why. And she's like, yeah, he always would say that. So then that kind of fueled a little fire in my head. So yeah, we started off with this retreat, and the feedback we got was amazing. One guy would be like, well, I'm not the only one struggling with my wife. I'm not the only one that has a short temper. I'm not the only one sleeping 1 or 2 hours a night. I'm not the only one that has visions during the day. And the feedback was amazing. We're like, let's do another one. Why not?
Why not?
Why not do another one? And then in the process was, why didn't we as a family and as friends of Brady look into PTSD? It's like, we knew he was in Afghanistan. We knew he was a sniper in Afghanistan. We knew he had to do these things that he did not think morally, that he had, when he got home then, that was a struggle for him. He didn't have, like you had talked about earlier, the survivor's guilt as much as what he had to do. Guilt for that, kind of thing. And why as a family didn't we never said, well, are you sleeping at night? Well, do you think you should talk to somebody? How can you be okay? There's no possible way you can be okay if you had to do what you had to do. And why didn't we do those? Like I said, we would sit and talk at 2 hours about putting together a budget or money or something like that, or the kids or something. But why didn't I ever ask him those really tough questions?
He told you he was okay.
He told me he was okay.
Exactly.
And you
he
believed
probably
him.
wouldn't have been able to answer them.
Yeah. And so as a family, we're like, we need to get the words out there. Just PTSD. What is it? Mm-hmm. Could be different for everybody. There's not, like I said, there's not a checklist. There's not a thing. But the more and more people that just hear PTSD, it's like, or PTS. Now we're trying to drop the D. And just PTS. And we've had a Vietnam guy come up to us, and he's like, this is the first time I ever saw the words PTSD on a banner. And he's like, I've struggled for over 50 years from Vietnam. And, so it's like just those little things. So obviously PTSD awareness is the other thing. And then Brady was seeing a counselor. But he had commented to his wife that the counselor didn't understand. Never been in that situation, never had to fire a weapon like that. And so our ultimate goal, because we figure this is going to be the most ripple effect, it's going to be around a lot longer than we are, is getting more veterans into the mental health field. Mm-hmm. So we have scholarships set up at NDSU, UND, Minot University. And, it could be like Brady. He had the GI Bill, but he also had, a wife and regular bills and, all that kind of stuff. And we want to just partner with veterans and say, how can we help you? How can we help you get through the schooling so you can in turn help out, help other veterans?
The important thing that you talked about is that you provided a safe space for them to talk to each other about their issues. And I think that stems in a lot of different mental health areas, not just PTSD, but addicts, people that are going through a dark time, whether it's suicide, whether it's other forms of PTSD, but that is super important. And I think the reason why we started this podcast is so people can hear they are not alone, because there are other people that are suffering with these same things. You just can't put your finger on it. You can't label it.
Right.
He didn't understand why the noises were loud. He didn't understand why he was having these thoughts. He didn't understand why his friends were taking their lives. If, you can provide this for these other people to be able to talk to each other and say, like, well, why do you think you have these? Or, oh my gosh, they're doing the same thing that I'm doing.
Right.
That was extremely important for you to figure that out. And even having people in, say like a counselor, a mental health person, and getting them in that field is important. But I think your retreats are
it's kind of that here and now. It's
Yes.
our action that's now.
Absolutely.
Our therapy is action for the future,
Right.
kind of thing. But
They have people they
absolutely.
can contact. They have people that they can
Yes.
talk to, and people, just like an addict has a sponsor. Maybe people with PTSD should have a sponsor. They have someone they can call day or night that can understand what they're going through and talk them off that ledge.
And just having those spaces, like right now we got, 3-day retreat going on. But we also do workout fitness at CrossFit where you're only working out with, veterans. So if your back is bad, there's a personal trainer there that will adjust it to you, and you're working out with other veterans. And all of a sudden stories start, talking or we're doing a car night with Fix It Forward in a couple weeks. Like, oh, I love, fixing cars. Great. Let's get a group of veterans and fix cars, doing something that you like. The hunting and fishing and all that is the extra. It's the bonfire afterwards that, is our goal. But of course,
therapy.
It gets people to come if we hunt and fish and do fun things and stuff. But ultimately, it's sitting around afterwards or, grilling up steaks and, sitting around those little moments. That's our goal.
So I have a quick story, because what we do is we take stories of trauma. Well, we do a couple different things. We take these stories and we turn them into songs. And we have different personalities we deal with. Some are more stern. I knew this one. He was a PhD, and he wrote about a book. He goes, make a song out of it. And so knowing that doesn't matter what I'm going to write, it's going to be not acceptable, I wrote the world's worst song. And then he sat down with me for 45 minutes, and he told me a story, and it was amazing. And we came up with a song. I wrote it that night, and I sent it to him. I go, what do you think? He goes, God, you listened to me.
Yeah.
That's all it was.
That's all it was. Like you said, the music is extra. It's that
Just
connecting and somebody listened to him.
Right.
That understands.
That he understood, yeah.
That's huge.
And then the other thing we do is we go into, the veterans home, and we find our most experienced veterans. There's still some World War II ones out there, and they voluntarily record their story. We give it back to them in 4K for the family, and we're doing an anthology book and compiling it. You talk about being humbled. Oh my goodness.
And for their families to be able to hear their stories.
Right. And unfortunately, I've had to give a lot of them because the family requests it again because they can't find it. And, it's sad because some of these folks have now passed, and I talked to them last year.
Wow.
Yeah. And they came in at the end of World War II. So that's where we're at.
Yeah.
Flying over the American fleet coming back from Japan. He was a pilot. I'm like, imagine that.
Yeah, imagine seeing that. Witnessing it.
And one guy, the Germans were firing at me, but I'm not mad at them because they didn't want to be there either. It's like, what? It truly the greatest
great attitude.
generation.
Wow.
Unbelievable
human
beings. Unbelievable. And so honored to listen to that. So I get it, is what I'm trying to say. I'm not trying to plug what we're doing. I'm just saying I totally get your approach.
And that's it. Right away, we had people that were like, hey, you need to have a counselor there. Yeah, I don't think Brady would go to that.
No.
You know, or, hey, you should have people come in and, you know, talk to vets about, you know, making sure they're getting their benefits or whatever. I'm like, you know, that's not what we're looking for either. You know, so we've kind of found what works for us and kind of just.
How has your interaction been with the local VA hospital?
Well, good. I am on a advisory board for the VA. So it has been good, but, you know, being a VA and
it's a governmental
a government job, they can't be like, hey, you're struggling with PTSD, you should find these nonprofits that are willing to help you or attend their stuff. You know, hopefully one day we can get there and, you know, be able to help more people like that. And we are very quick to say, you know what, we're not that last call.
That was a subtle wink.
Yeah, I picked up on it.
I'm one of the mentors for the VA, and I think that mental health unit is the number one in the United States for the VA right now. They're doing stuff on the weekends. We can always do better. There's no doubt about it. I interact with them quite frequently, and they have actually offered what we do to, if they find a musician, for instance. But I don't know if you've experienced this. One of the things that we learned the hard way is we happily take someone who has completed a therapy program. It becomes a little too difficult because we are not necessarily a therapy program. We're not counselors.
Right, and that's what we say. We are not counselors. We are not that last call.
Right.
You know, but you know what? Let us be one of your first calls that when you get home.
Right.
You know, or now people are home and, you know, hey,
Like
they're married now, or maybe their kids are a little older and they have a little bit more time.
Like a peer support function with benefits.
Yeah.
And we talked about this too. It's like this whole podcast. It's like, we're not counselors, but we can get you to one.
Right.
We
absolutely.
can get you to a.
I can connect you with a counselor.
100%.
I can connect you with, you know, another veteran that will sit and talk to you, and you know. But
that's what I love about what you do, because there's a lot of talk, and it's like, well, I don't know what to do after this. It's like, you got to have the answer. You got to have someone.
Yes.
For that, you can't just be an 800 number. It's like, here's a human being to talk to, whether it be 988 or something, just something, a little Band-Aid till you can get in person.
Yeah.
It's so important.
Well, and I was just visiting with somebody a little while ago, and they were like, but there's so many veterans groups. I'm like, there is. Yeah. And a lot of them are good at what they do. Yeah, you know,
very much.
We all have our different niches. And I said, if all of us were so busy, we still wouldn't hit the 1% of the, you know, the veterans that need us.
That's right.
So it's like, we love to partner with other nonprofits and veteran groups. And
we live in an area that has one of the largest veteran per capita.
Yeah.
We do. That's San Diego. I mean, per capita, this area, unbelievable.
I didn't know that.
Yeah.
Huh.
Very much so.
So, yeah, you know, it's like, well, there's a lot of people that need help, and all of us together can work better at it then.
We can be better. We can be better every day.
And we will post on our Facebook page the links and all of the things on how to get a hold of you guys,
Awesome.
and how to be a part of it. You know, even if you are moved by your story and you guys would like to donate to their cause, we're always supportive of that, you know, to help them, you know, fund some of these retreats and some of these awesome things that they do. And then if you yourself need help, I'm a huge advocate of saying suffer loudly. You know, I think too many times these things happen because we hold it in and we don't talk about it, and we don't allow people to hear our stories. And, you know, with your retreat, they can tell their stories and they can tell them openly without having their family feel, you know, afraid or like, you went through that, like, oh my gosh, you know, like they don't want to hear that. They want to tell it to other people that completely understand.
Yeah.
And I think that's a huge takeaway, which
and investing in human beings. If you can't invest in a fellow human being, what's there worth investing in? And if that person can survive and become a leader and help others, you've started the chain of healing for so many people.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Firsthand experience.
And you know, for siblings and stuff out there, ask those tough questions. Living with him being mad at me for a little bit because I pried would be a lot easier than living with the guilt for 10 years.
Oh, there's a lot of people that get pissed off at me.
I've
got a couple of them pissed off at me right now.
Yep.
But they're alive. You can be mad.
Sorry,
guys,
mad.
you can be mad.
Exactly.
You'll get over it.
That would be a lot easier.
Yeah, you'll get over it. I'd rather have you mad at me.
Have those hard questions and don't let up.
That's right.
Yeah.
Thank you for introducing us to Brady a little bit and the foundation. But it's always good to know the person behind the foundation, not necessarily Tracy and Brad. And it's good to know who this legacy is.
It's actually a real person.
It is a person.
People say that, like,
he's a hero.
Real. Yeah,
he's a hero in my book, and I held it together today. I had a couple moments, but I'm pretty good at that. So I have a pretty good mask. I'll probably lose it in the car, but
see, I'm a car crier too, so I can hold it together until I get in the car.
But what better way to honor a human being than to do it the right way and do it the way you believe they would do it?
Yeah, one of the questions I get sometimes is like, oh, what would Brady do today if he, or, to know about this? And I'm like, honestly, he'd be like, that was cool. No, do it bigger.
No, do it bigger.
Or like, oh, that was awesome.
Sorry,
you can do that better.
Those
or
guys.
You can do that bigger or better. Or he wouldn't be okay with like, okay, we're good. We'll just stay like this and do what we can. He'd be like, that was awesome, but I think you can do more. That was him in definitely a nutshell. He wouldn't be like, oh, good job, Tracy. You can now take it easy.
Oh, there's no taking it easy. I will tell you, your husband cornered me one day. He goes, you should be doing some of this stuff. And I'm like, I'm too busy. And he's got hands like catcher's mitts. And he's like,
you're our veteran that we need that says that.
He looked at me and he gave me the look. And I was like, oh, settle down. Stuff going on too, buddy. I appreciate it. But for me, even getting VA benefits, I'm like, I'm not doing that. And I sat at the VA and there was a young man next to me, my age, missing a limb. I'm like, I'm out of here. And my brother chewed me up one side, down the other. He goes,
good job, brother.
You get back in there. You get back in there. He goes, this is for you. And it's like, tough.
This is why we do this stuff.
Yeah,
this
right?
is, and what you said is exactly it. Like, we could sit down right now and plan the most amazing retreat, and then you'd be like, you know what? 5 other people need it way more than me. And it's like, you know what? You come, you bring a friend, and if it's full, we'll have another one. Like, it's for you. It's for you.
I'm getting better.
We do these things for, the vets to do it.
Time for them to be selfish. They
I don't even do
served
the
and
discount.
They did everything else for everybody else. It's now time for them to understand that they can take time for their own mental health.
I don't even do the discount thing. I keep my mouth shut. My wife, though, she's like, nope, we're doing it.
There are very few things that are like discounted or free in life. Dan, damn it, use your discount.
You deserve the.
If not, I'm going to come with you, and I'm going to.
If it's car insurance and stuff, I'm all in. But
you earned your discount.
Texas Roadhouse, something like that, and I just I don't know. It's just one of those things.
Brady was like that a lot too, or like stand if you're a veteran. Very few times he would stand.
So just at the Johnny Home concert in the park, they were honoring veterans. Like, there are any veterans there, and I'm sitting there, and of course all my friends, this guy. I'm like, duh. You guys. I mean, I'm not the one standing with my hand up.
You should be proud.
You should be proud.
We are, but it's a life of service of others, and that's really what drives you.
And
it's sacrifice of yourself.
And we always tell, because the veteran group is so in service of others, and they don't want to take it upon themselves. But I'm like, if you guys don't come, we won't have the retreat for the 1 or 2 guys that really needed it.
That's really a good point.
You being there is going to help the next guy.
So I got schooled. And I'm a little wordy. I got schooled by our drummer, Shanoa. You're listening. My birthday. Outside of everything that happened on my birthday, I was like, I don't want anything. She goes, oh, you're doing it. Mm-hmm. You're coming out. And I'm like, I really don't like the attention. She's like, it's not for you. It's for us celebrating you in our lives. And I'm like,
love that.
Okay, I just got schooled. And she's right.
Yeah.
It's a completely different way of looking at it, and a healthy way of looking at it. And that means more to me than anything. So thank you, Shanoa.
And you're still getting gifts.
Yeah, I guess. I did. Your anniversary's coming up. I got you something.
You're not supposed to get me things. I'm supposed to get you things. This is how this works.
Guitars.
I can have a stern look too, just like your wife.
I'm very well aware. I've seen the stern look, and it terrifies me.
Have you seen my house? I don't need any more things in my house. My husband's going to kill me.
That's not what I heard. I heard you may have found some stuff.
Oh,
Andy, call me.
not on the air. We don't talk about my...
Andy, call me.
Yeah, now I'm in trouble.
No, you're fine.
Well, Tracy, thank you so much for telling us your story. And hopefully, if there are any veterans listening to this, I would highly encourage you to get a hold of them to come to one of their retreats just to kind of see what it's all about.
Absolutely.
Yeah, keep doing what you're doing. Thank you.
Thank you. You guys too.
And thank you for what you're doing, because it takes courage and a little bit of faith.
A lot of faith.
So Brady Oberg Legacy Foundation is what it is called. And Tracy, you are an inspiration. Thank you for putting this together and putting it for people and putting other people forward. You suffered, but you suffered loudly, and you did it for others. Kids, really appreciate it.
You've been listening to the Kiss My Chaos podcast. Stay tuned for our next episode, where we speak with some of the most intriguing people about their journey from trauma to triumph. If you find yourself in mental crisis, please seek professional medical help immediately.